2025 rookie drafts, we'll run through the running back position. I've evaluated 28 rushers in this class, and I'm going to break them down into tier by tier rankings, giving you direct references to dynasty running back value to help you win your rookie drafts and build those fantasy football championship rosters. All right, let's get into it here. 28 running backs, lots to get to. I'll encourage you, drop a comment. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these players, or if there somehow is a running back that you want to hear about that I did not talk about this video. Drop a comment and let me know that as well. This will be the last rankings update before the NFL draft. Now, as we get into it here, you're going to see the different names of my tiers. I'll go through that as we go, but off the bat, just know this is verbiage we use in the Rookie Big Board to project the actual value a player is going to have in your fantasy football lineup. If you don't want to learn the verbiage, that's fine. Watch the video, consider this tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Starting here with the only running back in the franchise cornerstone tier. He's in a tier of his own, and you may have guessed it. That is running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. Now, his dynasty counterpart here is Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm expecting Ashton Jeanty to come in and immediately contribute as a running back one. That's the franchise cornerstone tier, a week 1 top 12 score, and averaging top 12 scoring weekly over the course of their rookie season. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to come in 200 to 225 touches on the ground, another 30 to 40 through the air. He should be an absolute impact player at the next level. I love his explosiveness. I love his vision. There's not much reason to hang on to this for a long time because we know Ashton Jeanty is the 101 in this class, and he is definitely in a tier of his own. Now, I think where things are really going to start opening up here is where folks are going to consider that next tier break. And for me, there's only one running back in the next tier as well, and that is Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. Now, I'm a big fan of Omarion Hampton. I think he's an excellent power rusher through the tackles. I think that he has great footwork, has good lateral agility for his size. I like his anticipation, his vision, his ability to hit cutback lanes. I think Hampton did a lot with a little running behind the North Carolina offensive line. And he also is a really sneaky good pass catcher, which is what helps him get into this league winner tier. Now, league winners for me, that's weekly top 18 scores at their position, right? So a running back that scores in the top 18 consistently, but has running back one upside. And so the comparison point here is Jonathan Taylor. That's somebody that you can plug into your lineup. He's raising the profile of your fantasy roster. He's helping you make an immediate impact, and that's going to be Omarion Hampton. The reason that I put the direct dynasty comparison is for nothing else. It's not a stylistic comparison, but I want you to understand, the way that you feel when you put Jonathan Taylor in your lineup, that's how you should feel about putting Omarion Hampton in your lineup. And now Hampton's a guy who's probably going to go up the board, 103, 104, maybe 105 in Superflex leagues. You should feel really good about the idea of adding that type of production to your roster. And that's why he's standing in a tier of his own. Now, as we get into that next tier, just one down, there's also only one guy, and I promise these tiers are going to open up a little bit more here. But for me, it's TreVeyon Henderson. And I think might be where I differentiate a little bit from consensus. I think a lot of folks would have TreVeyon Henderson in the big group, but I think once we see his NFL draft capital, I'm projecting him to be a first-round NFL draft pick. I think you're going to feel a little bit better about that. And so our impact starters here, these are players who are going to finish as weekly top 24 scorers, so a weekly RB2, top 24 scorer. They're going to be in your starting lineup week in and week out, and that's how I feel about TreVeyon Henderson. I think he's got good explosive play. I love his ability to move east and west just as much as north to south. He wins with leverage. He's got a good power profile, especially in the lower body. I like his vision. I like his ability to hit cutback lanes. Henderson as well, somebody who I think is a little bit underrated as a pass catcher. I think he's got a little bit of juice in the passing game. And so landing spot's going to be really interesting. But Henderson, if he goes late first round, he may actually end up in a much more explosive, exciting offense. The dynasty comparison here is a guy like Josh Jacobs. And I picked Josh Jacobs on purpose, right? Because Josh Jacobs, he hasn't been exciting. He really hasn't. But everyone knows if you have Josh Jacobs in your lineup week in and week out, he's producing, he's consistent. And I think that's what you're going to get with TreVeyon Henderson. I think some folks are fading him a little bit because he's maybe not as exciting, but I think he's going to be a really steady producer in your lineup. And again, Henderson, 106, 107, 108, that's pretty good value here. You should feel really good about that. Now, I promise things were going to break open a little bit, and it's in this weekly starter tier for me that things really break wide open. Now, the dynasty comparison point for this tier is James Conner out of Arizona. And if you've been watching, listening, you're a Rookie Big Board patron for even a little bit of time, you know that I love James Conner. So it's a good tier to be in here. Our weekly starters are our top 30 scorers at the position. And so these are guys that you're going to be able to plug either into your running back spot if you're a little light on running back, or maybe you need to plug them into the flex spot. If you're playing it in all positions or a league that has like 10 flex spots, you're going to be able to put these running backs into your lineup and feel really good about their ability to contribute weekly with some nice upside on top of that. So going through this tier here, we're going to start with running back Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. Judkins is a home run type pick, right? You're probably going to take him in the back end of the first round, and you just have to understand your risk tolerance here. He's got explosive upside, great downfield acceleration. If he's got an open gap to run through, he will explode through that. He's light on his feet, and Judkins, solid hands, so he can contribute as a pass catcher. The downside here with Judkins, and it is a big red flag for me, quite frankly, the vision. The vision is inconsistent. He really does need an open gap to run through. And so I'm going to feel much more bullish on Judkins post-draft if I like his offensive line. If I don't like his offensive line, that's going to be a big drop-off for me. I'm sticking with Devin Neal. He is my running back 5 at this point in the process still. I'm willing to stick on it. I like Devin Neal. I trust his tape. I trust his vision. I understand folks, who are going to go off of just athletic scoring are not going to be as high on him, but there is nobody who sees the field better than Devin Neal in this class. Excellent cutback lanes. He's bursty enough. He's fast enough. I've compared him consistently throughout the process to running back Kyren Williams. And even before I knew the athletic testing, I think it makes a lot of sense, except he's going to have day 2 draft capital. And I think he's going to have the chance to make an immediate impact, not only on an NFL roster, but on your fantasy football roster. Next up here is Cam Skattebo, running back out of Arizona State. Powerful, tenacious, seeks out contact, a real masher in between the tackles, but he's got a nice second gear. He's got good burst working through the midfield. And so Skattebo is the type of guy who I think, he's probably going to only have 40 to 45% of the touches in his offense, but that's okay. That's still a pretty good projection for most running backs, right? And that's how you kind of get into this back end of a top 24 score into a top 30 score. It might depend on the week, but that 35, 40, 45% market share on your team, that's the type of number that's going to get you into this tier. And so you shouldn't be scared off of Cam Skattebo, even if he does have a complimentary, maybe a more of an agile pass catching running back splitting the backfield with him. Next up is RJ Harvey. I have gone all in on RJ Harvey. He's gone from a sleeper to realizing that I'm not going to get him cheap. When I first started this back in December, I thought I could get RJ Harvey in the 4th round. Crushes it through the pre-draft process. I'm thinking maybe I can get him in the 3rd. And now it seems real likely he's a day 2 pick, which means I'm going to have to pay up in the 2nd round for RJ Harvey, but I'm willing to do it. I love RJ Harvey's explosiveness. I love his quick lateral agility. I love his downfield acceleration. He sees the field well on top of all of that. I understand he's a little bit older, but quite frankly, folks, if I could even get 3 good years out of a running back that I'm drafting in the 2nd round, I'm more than happy to take that. Next up here is Caleb Johnson. And you can see I'm definitely below consensus. Caleb Johnson was in my fades video. I got a lot of negative comments about that. But I want to point out here, right? It's still about understanding what's the right value point. Because I'm still putting Caleb Johnson in the same tier as Quinshon Judkins. I understand if you want to take Caleb Johnson over Judkins or Neal or Scadaboo. I'm not going to do that. But this is the same tier. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to consider him in that same range. And then the last guy who fits into this, and I got to tell you, he just snuck in, but he did fit into this tier, and that's running back Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. And Dylan Sampson definitely has his fans, and he should. Somebody who is really, he sees space, he hits space, he's aggressive. I like his ability to flip that second gear once he gets, maybe 5-6 yards from the line of scrimmage. I like Sampson's ability to get in and through his cuts very well. He's got good start-stop explosive ability. So a lot to like about Dylan Sampson. Everybody who's in this weekly starter tier, you're going to get somewhere from, well, let's take Quinshon Judkins out of it, and maybe let's take Caleb Johnson out of it, right? Those guys you're probably going to have to pay back into the first round type value. But Neal, Scadaboo, Harvey, Sampson, we're talking about guys who are going to go off the board mid, maybe early, maybe late second round. And so you have a lot of opportunity here to get value out of this weekly starter tier. Again, I'm considering all of these guys without knowing landing spot. I'm considering all of these to be guys who are going to be able to plug into your fantasy lineups right away. When we talk about the strength of the running back class, this is what I'm talking about, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 running backs who I think right off the bat are jumping in as weekly starters for you. And that's not the end of it here, because we're going to get into the flex filler tier. And I got to tell you, this is the best tier. This is the tier where you can find the most value each and every year. This is where we found Tyrone Tracy at the running back position last year. This is where Bucky Irving came out of, right? There's a lot of value in this tier. And before I get into it and break it down, I want to make sure you know how much value there is in being a Rookie Big Board patron. You can get access to my full rookie rankings, which will be updated literally as the NFL draft progresses. You can get access to my full projections, my seasonal 2025 projections for every single rookie, which again will be plugged in as they're drafted over NFL draft weekend, updated consistently throughout the offseason. You can get access to the dynasty rankings, the Devy rankings, the 108-page rookie guide. Volume 2 will drop the Monday after the NFL draft. You can get personalized advice in the Rookie Big Board Discord. You can do a one-on-one draft consultation call. So much available to help you win your rookie drafts with personalized advice for just $5. Check it out now, folks. If you've been watching my videos, this is the time. You need to get ahead of your league mates, and you need to get the full resources of the Rookie Big Board in order to do that. The link to join will be in the episode description. Now, let's get into this flex filler tier, because like I mentioned off the bat, I love this tier. I think it's a really exciting one each and every year. And the 2025 class, to nobody's surprise here, it's an exciting one again. So my reference point here is Rachaad White. And I know what you're thinking to yourself, Rachaad White, isn't this the guy that Bucky kind of put in the dirt last year? Well, even though Bucky outperformed Rachaad White, he was still a weekly top 36 scorer. And that's what we're talking about here in this flex filler range, or a weekly top 40 scorer. Sorry, that's who we're talking about here in this flex filler tier. And the reason I purposely put Rachaad White in there is because you kind of get the guys that are disrespected. Maybe they're not as flashy, but they're still producing consistently for fantasy purposes. And I think those are the types of guys that you're drafting in this spot. We're talking very end of the second round of rookie drafts into the third round of rookie drafts. Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami. I'm a big fan of Damian Martinez. If there's any player who I expect to go day 3, who I think have a legitimate shot of being a 220 touch guy consistently over the next 5 years, it's Damian Martinez. He is a workhorse power back. He's one of these guys that just gets better as the game goes on. He's got excellent lower body strength. He physically seeks out contact. He runs over defenders. I think he's got really nice agility for a guy who's 220. And quite frankly, I think he's really 230. He's got good footwork. He's light on his feet for that size. And I think he sees space very well in between the tackles. Probably not a guy who's going to get 50 catches in any season, right? Probably not a guy who's going to work primarily off tackle, so he's a little bit limited in that sense, but I think he could be a really good running back for you and add a lot of value to a fantasy roster. Next up here is Brashad Smith. And what I love about this tier is I just talked about a guy who's going to primarily live in between the tackles. Think about the complete opposite with Brashad Smith. He is a versatile PPR forward type threat. He's got excellent hands. He actually started as a wide receiver at Miami, transitioned to running back at SMU, and tore it up in one season as a running back. Does this sound like anybody, folks? Does this sound like maybe rookie big board favorite Tyrone Tracy, who we drafted in the 3rd round very consistently last year? Over 70% exposure to Tyrone Tracy last year. I'm seeing a lot of similarities with Brashad Smith. Excellent twitchy in between the tackles. He's a very twitchy runner. I don't use that phrase a lot, but I really like when I can. Good cut back lanes. His vision for only playing the running back position 1 year is excellent. And I mentioned it, a really instinctive pass catcher. He's excellent catching the ball in stride, working upfield. He's a guy who can be deployed actually as a wide receiver. So you can move him up. You can put him on the line of scrimmage. There's some versatility there, and I think an NFL team is really going to get into that. Maybe not ever a guy who's going to have 250 touches in a season. But again, you're putting these guys in your flex spot, right? Injuries happen. Your bench gets depleted. You need to plug guys in. And Brashad Smith, he might end up with 8, 9, 10 fantasy points per week, but you're going to need that. And that's the way you want to use your 3rd round picks. Next up here is Bayshal Tuin out of Virginia Tech. This is a tricky one because his combine was so good that he's really going to get pushed up in terms of ADP. So I'm cool with Bayshal Tuin early 3rd. Don't pay a second for him because there's definitely a really low floor. High ceiling, low floor here. If he has an open gap to hit through, he's going to attack that gap. He's going to burst through it. He's going to accelerate very well downfield. He's good moving laterally across the field. I don't love his vision. He needs to get another guy here who needs to get behind a good offensive line. And if he does, then you could feel a little bit more aggressive on Bayshal too. And if he's behind a bad offensive line, he's not somebody who I'm going to want to invest draft capital in just because there's so many other good running backs who I do very legitimately like in this range. Speaking of guys who I do very legitimately like, I don't think he's getting enough credit, is Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon. I have swung everywhere. Back in November when I was doing a mock draft here, I put Jordan James as a 2nd round rookie pick. That's where I thought he would go. And I've swung so far that in a mock draft last month, I just left him off. Because nobody cared about Jordan James, and he went to the combine and he didn't do a good job. And quite frankly, folks, maybe he still doesn't get drafted in the top 48 picks. But I'm going to be looking at him, late round 3, early round 4, because I think he's a really good running back. And I think he's probably going to go round 4, a little bit higher than folks expect. Not somebody who's going to be a home run play threat. Right. But I think he's somebody who an NFL team is going to look to consistently get 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. And, maybe 125, 150 touches, just kind of you're going to be able to project and slot him in for right away. But he's the type of productive, reliable runner where if he's the running back 2 on a roster and running back 1 goes down, he's going to be able to pick up that workload and be really efficient with that and handle it and get touchdowns. He's good in short yardage situations. And so obviously you can never predict injury, but anytime you have the opportunity to draft a good skill set as the running back 2 on a roster, if you can do that in the 3rd or 4th round of your rookie drafts, that's good process. And that's where I expect to be on Jordan James, again, before knowing what that landing spot is. Syracuse running back LaQuint Allen is up next. Now, this is a really interesting player. He's a bit of a slasher here. Or I'm sorry, not a bit of a slasher. He's a bit of a one-cut runner. And he's able to do that very well in the Syracuse offense. He's good between the tackles, and he's a really excellent pass catcher. So he's similar to that Brashad Smith model, maybe not as natural of a pass catcher, but he's really good in space. He's elusive in space. He's instinctive in the sense that he's going to catch the ball, continue upfield. He feels that very well. It's in stride, which gives you good yak potential. And so especially if LaQuint Allen ends up in an offense with a creative-minded head coach, I think he could be a really nice player. And the last guy that did sneak into this flex filler tier for me, a lot of folks are burying him, but I refuse to be completely out on Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. His tape is good. I understand his production isn't good, but I'm telling you, when you watch his tape, he passes the eye test. He's a twitchy runner. He's aggressive. He's super aggressive. He wins in short yardage situations. He may not be the heaviest guy, but he has filled out his frame and he helps him win leverage, which is why he looks so strong on tape and is able to win leverage so consistently against SEC front sevens. I think he feels space very well and has good cutback potential. So, Etienne, probably a very similar conversation to Jordan James here, where maybe he's not ever the dude, but if he, lands on a roster where I could see him quickly advancing up, then that's definitely a situation that I'm going to be interested in here. Now, moving on to the bench depth here, and I know what you're saying to yourself right off the bat, bench depth, what? Why am I finishing this video? What are we doing with the bench depth here? I'm telling you, folks, if you're playing in 25 roster, 30 roster, even if you're playing in 20 roster leagues where you might not draft these players, keep an eye on them for the waiver wire because injuries are going to happen. You're going to need to know about these running backs. These are guys who are still going to be fantasy relevant and still have the opportunity to progress into, that weekly starter, impact starter type tier here. So starting here with the bench depth tier, and it's a pretty big one. My reference point is Jordan Mason, the running back out of Minnesota. On the graphic here, he's still wearing his San Francisco jersey, but of course he got traded to Minnesota. A really good example of a guy who was irrelevant at some points last year, but was super relevant and super valuable. And you could have flipped Jordan Mason for a second-round pick at some point last year, right? And you would have drafted him in the 4th round of rookie drafts. And that's kind of what we're talking about with these guys. Guys who I think you might be able to draft in the 4th round of rookie drafts, who once they pop and become valuable, you can either ride out that production or potentially flip them for a 2026 second-round pick. First up is Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers. Monangai is one of these players who didn't test well, didn't have, the most wild production. He had good production at Rutgers, but when you watch the tape, you just see a guy who can run the ball. I mean, I know I will qualify that a little bit more, but at the end of it, Monangai just can run the ball. He's got good vision. He's excellent in a phone booth. So he makes guys miss in tight space, and he's got a slight elusiveness to him. He's physical enough that he runs through Big Ten defenders. He's the type of guy, I love his decisive running style. He will never get caught behind the line of scrimmage. He sees space, he hits space, and I think that's going to be very valuable. Again, not a guy who's going to start for an NFL team right away. Monangai might get drafted round 6 of the NFL draft. I don't care. I have 4th round picks. I need to take flyers. I have 5th round picks. I need to use them. Monangai is the type of guy that I want to use this pick on. This is probably the most controversial pick in this whole video. And I've got DJ Giddens down here in the bench depth here. I want to like DJ Giddens. Please comment, make me feel even worse about it, right? Because you're not going to say anything that I don't want to say about DJ Giddens. I understand he's got some explosiveness. He's got some athleticism. I've seen the production. I know the analytics like him. I know he crushed it at his combine. I've watched him live over the last couple seasons. I'm always rooting for DJ Giddens. I ran Kansas State to an NCAA 2025 college football championship with DJ Giddens. He won the Heisman for me. I was so excited to play with him. He's so fun. Folks, in real life, his vision is so inconsistent. He's indecisive. He gets stuck behind the line of scrimmage, and he's got a lot of concentration drops on his tape. Those are the 2 biggest things, man, for me as a running back. If you don't have good vision, it's not going to get better at the next level. And if you're dropping the ball, it's going to limit your usage, the packages, the opportunities that you could get at the next level. It's just a non-starter for me. So I hate to put DJ Giddens down here, but if you like him, I'm still fine with you taking that shot on him. I'm just going to really encourage you. Hold out. See if you can get a mid to late 3rd. See if you can get him in the 4th round. I think that's a more proper value on him. I went back. I watched more Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas. I had a lot of Rookie Big Board patrons asking me about Jaden Blue. Hey, why are you so low on him? I watched him live a ton. He was really frustrating because he's been this hyped up Devy guy for a lot of years, and he never could take over the Texas starting role. Even when CJ Baxter went down this year, he got leapfrogged on the depth chart by CJ Baxter, a true freshman, super talented guy. He gets hurt, and Jaden Blue gets the chance to start, take the lead, and then he gets leapfrogged again by an underclassman with Quintavian Wisner, right? So I was so off on him. but I went back, I watched more Jaden Blue tape, I broke him down, and I get it. I see it. I see the pass catching upside. I see how athletic he looks when he is in space. I see the explosive upside. And so I'm here, folks. I'm in on it. I'm okay with Jaden Blue. But as you can tell, he's pretty low in my rankings. So what I'm going to ask you to do, just wait to the 4th round. If you wait to the 4th round, take a shot on Jaden Blue. I'm going to call it good process. We're good. We're on the same page. Running back Khalil Mullins out of Michigan. And I really thought folks would be talking about Khalil Mullins by this point. Short yardage monster. He's physical. He's yoked up. Excellent lower body strength. Just absolutely smashes through the Big Ten defenders. Here's the floor for Khalil Mullins. The absolute floor for Khalil Mullins is he is going to be the guy that you hate because he is stealing the touchdowns from the running back that you want to score, right? Because at the very least, he's going to be a short yardage goal line specialist for an NFL team. And at best, he's going to be able to get a larger role, carry a big workload, kind of really be that power horse back. Not the fastest, not the most explosive, but just a really consistent guy. He beat out Donovan Edwards for the job for a reason. And no, I didn't leave Donovan Edwards out. We'll be talking about him soon enough. And another guy who I really, really like, Woody Marks. Woody Marks is and I know there's folks who aren't as high on him. I refuse to just fully fade this guy. If I have to, I play in some deeper leagues. I play in some 16-team leagues. If I can get him in the 4th round of 16-team leagues, if I can get him in the 5th round of 12-team leagues, I'm totally fine with that. I'm going to soak up the value, and I'm going to take my shot on Woody Marks. The best pass catcher in this class from the running back position, top 3? I'm going to say top 3, but he could be. He could be. And in terms of production, 261 receptions over his 5-year career. He won in the air raid offense. He looked fantastic. He won in a really bad Zach Arnett offense at Mississippi State. And then he went to USC and he won in the Lincoln Riley offense. So he's versatile. He's won in 3 different offenses. He looks fast. He looks super agile, really good lateral agility, excellent hands, like I mentioned. I like Woody Marks a real good bit. If you can scheme him into space, he can be a really dangerous player. The bench depth tier is so deep that we do have to go on to another line here, and I really hope this emphasizes. I want to clarify here. I've watched tape on all of these players, and we still have a good chunk of guys to get through, but this is important. These are the deep guys you need to know about in your leagues here. All right, so this next row here of bench depth, we're going to start with the running back here out of Texas Tech, and that is Tahj Brooks. Tahj Brooks, he's a powerful guy. He's 5'9", 214. I think he's slimmed down for the combine. I think he's 5'9", 222, 225 if I had to guess. He's a really interesting player because he's a bit agile, and I like him in space, and I like his hands, but he's got the frame of a guy who should be playing between the tackles. And I don't like his vision as much in between the tackles, but I do like his strength in between the tackles. So there's things that I like, there's things that I don't like. It's this very interesting kind of, whenever there's a frame skill set mismatch, I always get a little bit weary. But at the same time, when I watch Tahj Brooks tape, I can't walk away not excited. And so he's this really interesting player, again, where, if you want to take a late shot on him, I totally get it. I totally understand it. The aforementioned Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. Here's the thing with Donovan Edwards. If you get him in a creative offense where you can get him into space, if he can be a pass-catching specialist, then he can be the most explosive athletic player on that offense. He really can. Like you're thinking about, like a Shanahan tree offense, Mike McDaniel offense, I was going to say a KOC offense, maybe not that scheme necessarily, but if you can get him into space, he could be a really explosive, impactful player. Probably somebody who you're going to be more interested in taking a late shot on if you're playing in a best ball format, because I don't think he's going to be a week in and week out consistent scorer. Somebody who is a little bit more consistent of a rusher is Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn. Over 2,000 rushing yards the last 2 seasons in what, folks, I can only describe as a really, really bad Auburn offense, where everybody knew Jarquez Hunter was going to be running the ball. They were stacking the box. That quarterback play has been bad. And Auburn fans, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be taking shots, but I don't think you would disagree with me, right? And I think it's going to get better this year. I'm optimistic with Jackson Arnold. But that's not going to help Jarquez Hunter. I think Jarquez Hunter is probably going to be around 6, round 7 type draft pick, maybe round 5. So he's going to be late. And he's not the most exciting player, but he's really consistent. He knows what he needs. He takes what the defense gives him. He's decisive in the gap. He's physical. He's willing to seek out that contact. I think he's really limited in terms of his athletic traits, but somebody who, again, if you just get him in the right spot, James Robinson, right? That's probably the best example. If he gets in the right opportunity, Jarquez Hunter has the prerequisite skill set to be able to get it done. Ollie Gordon, man, I am still seeing Ollie Gordon as a top 12 ranked running back in some rankings. I am just not there, folks. You look at 2023, and you can have an argument that he's a top 3 running back in this class. You look at 2024, and you don't even want to draft him. And I need to look at both of those years, but I'm going to really weigh 2024, and here's why. Because even when you watch 2023 tape, I worry about his vision, and I worry about his lack of explosiveness. And what was the problem in 2024? The Oklahoma State offense totally collapsed. The offensive line was terrible. And when the offensive line was terrible, that's when Ollie Gordon shut down. He couldn't create his own space. And I can't promise you that he's going to be able to create his own space in the NFL. So that's why I'm fully fading Ollie Gordon. I'm leaning more towards the 2024 Ollie Gordon than 2023 Ollie Gordon. I think if Ollie Gordon really believes in Ollie Gordon, he would have gone into the transfer portal. He had another year of eligibility. He would have gone into the transfer portal. I think there's a lot of Power 4 programs that would have been interested in him, and he would have, got behind a good offensive line and done a little bit of a Quinshon Judkins, right? Quinshon Judkins could have gone out last year, and Quinshon Judkins last year was a better prospect than Ollie Gordon this year. But go back and improve your draft stock. That's what Judkins did. Gordon did not bet on himself. It's hard for me to bet on him when he's not betting on him. And I know that's a little unfair, but that's where I'm at. That's where I'm leaning with Ollie Gordon. And the last guy in the bench depth here is Raheem Rocket Sanders, the former Debbie Darling. He fell apart, at the end when at Arkansas, and he transfers to South Carolina. And he did have a nice resurgence this year. You could see, a little bit he got that juice back. He's good, powerful between the tackles. But here's where I'm stuck at Raheem Sanders. My favorite runs for him are him being decisive and powerful in between the tackles. My least favorite runs for him is when he's indecisive and loses leverage and gets stood up in between the tackles. It's inconsistent, and there's not enough upside when you pair that with inconsistency for me to necessarily want to take that big swing late. I'd rather go for one of the other players in this tier, which is why he's at the very end of it. And there's a few players left. There's 2 players left here that you might be thinking to yourself, this man has not mentioned Phil Maffa at all. This man has not mentioned Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the absolute darling of the Twitter and the Blue Sky scene right now. So let's talk about those last 2 guys. They're the only guys who fit in my Taxi Squad stash tier. My dynasty anchor reference point is Keaton Mitchell, because I liked Keaton Mitchell coming out, and injuries held him back. I think he could have a role in the Baltimore offense this year. You stash him on your Taxi Squad because the upside is there. And that's where you're landing with these 2 guys. And I like that these 2 guys are here because they're completely different runners. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. You watch that one game, and only one game he was able to play because of eligibility issues in 2024, and you see a speedy dude. You see somebody with great lateral agility. You see somebody who's excellent in open space. You see that athleticism, that excitement. You watch some 2023 tape. 2024, he was at Arizona. He transferred. 2023, he was at New Mexico State. I apologize to New Mexico and New Mexico State. He was at one of those 2 fine institutions. And he looked like a really unconfident runner. I thought he got stuck behind the line of scrimmage, being indecisive too much. He didn't look as explosive when he wasn't schemed into space. I think that there's a real chance that I would be in on him if I had seen even 4 or 5 really good games of 2024 tape. I'm not willing to go all in on one game of tape. I've watched enough tape to know that one game does not make an evaluation. And so that's why he's in Taxi Squad stash. Listen, if you want to use a 4th round pick on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, go for it. You play fantasy to get your guys. Have fun with it. Take your shot. I won't be doing it. I wouldn't take him until probably the 5th or 6th round, again, in deeper drafts. And then Phil Maffa, man. Phil Maffa's been hanging around for a few years, and I watched his evaluation. I thought he deserved it, even though he's not really getting any draft type. He might even go undrafted. but I thought he deserved an evaluation because he's been chewing it up at Clemson and he's been really productive over the last 2 years, over 2,000 rushing yards over the last 2 years. And he's had some really nice catches as well. Like the numbers aren't there overall, but he's had some really nice highlight play catches. You know, when you're watching college football, playing college fantasy football as much as I am, you appreciate a guy like Phil Maffa. In terms of his translation to the next level, he's pretty limited athleticism-wise. He doesn't have a lot of juice, limited explosiveness. I think he's going to primarily kind of be a banger in between the tackles. I just don't know that he's going to get necessarily those touches, but he deserves some discussion along with the 27 other running backs that we covered here. If you have any questions on any of these guys, drop them in the comments. But I'm telling you, folks, if you enjoy this insight, this analysis, if you enjoy the videos that I've been putting out, you have to head over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. We are just scratching the surface, and I cannot tell you how wild the NFL draft weekend is going to be. Content will be flowing out nonstop. You want to be ahead of your league mates. There is no better way to get instant analysis, reaction, updates, projections for this 2025 rookie class than over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. And even though the NFL draft is right around the corner, believe it or not, before we get to the draft, I will be back real soon with some more rookie content.